Happy holidays! This is Vivon Valentine, and I hope you enjoyed these holiday DIYs. So my fiance sent me a TikTok from Shauna Elnwick. She um, was able to get a pool noodle and put a bunch of ornaments on it, and so I decided to do the same and try to do that. So I had something to decorate my barn door in the middle of my house. So I did that, and here you just see me hot gluing these ornaments that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I just straight up just glued them on one and on. After I was finished gluing on all of the ornaments and silver poinsettias and everything, I added the final touches, added some bells, tiny gems and stuff, the tops of some ornaments too. It ended up causing a lot of glitter, so I got my Mod Podge out and I covered all of the glitter parts so that they wouldn't put any more glitter. And when it was finished, you didn't even see the Mod Podge anymore, but you still get the glitter effect without it. The glitter going everywhere, which it absolutely did. And here's the final appearance of what it looks like, and it looks great on my barn door. I just added some command strips, and it looks fantastic. I highly recommend this project to anyone. The next project I'm working on is little Christmas houses that I painted black. This one in particular was a birdhouse that I got from Michael's, and I removed the little bird part. I sanded it after removing the bird holder part, and I decided to paint it black to go with my Goth Christmas home decor. Now, fun fact, Aurelio Voltaire made a much better, amazing DIY using the same birdhouse, but he does a really cool job creating an awesome, I believe, Cthulhu home decor piece. It's amazing. You should check it out, especially if you like goth home decor. So I finished up the house by doing a second coat and made sure to really sand down the perch, I believe it is called. And I painted the bottom on the inside just to make sure that when the final piece is done, that it looks completely finished. First, I start out by using this piece of wood to measure out how big the house should be. I'm hand making this out of foam using my utility blade. I copy each side, and I am able to make 4 different squares that I then cut out of the foam. Once I have all the squares, I made a drawing to see how big the doorway was, so that I can then imprint it onto one of the pieces of foam for the entryway, and so I can put a little tea light into it when I'm finished making the house. Here you see me hot gluing each of the sides together and making sure that they stick. I put this together with gloves because I do not want to burn my hands. Here I realized I needed to make the triangle part of the house for the roof, so I then cut out a rectangle into a triangle for the roof part. From there, I hot glued the triangles onto the front and the back of the house. Don't mind the seam because eventually you can cover that up with the method of paint that I'm doing. Then I measured out with the wood piece again to see how big the top part was, and I laid the foam against it to see how big the roof was, and then I cut it to size to make sure that both sides were the same. I made sure to make a second one using the previous piece of foam so that each side would look correct and even. I then hot glued the roof onto it and holding it, making sure it would stay in place. Once the main structure of the house was completed, I turned it over and did my measuring once again to make sure I had a little door. And then I carved it. I lit up you shouldn't do this at home. I lit up I was having trouble with my knife. So I lit it up with my lighter and I cut into the foam, kind of like a hot knife. I would just suggest using a hot knife carver. From here, I wanted to round out the sides to make them look a little bit more realistic. I wanted the door to be a little bit bigger and even. I trimmed the sides. I did little things to make sure that they were correct. And let's see, here you see, yeah, I'm rounding out each of the sides again. Here I'm making measurements for the windows that I wanted to cut out on each of the sides. I used one piece of wood and made little markings on it so that they would fit, and then I cut them out with my crafting knife. I do this so that once I put the light in it, it will end up lighting up the whole house at night. So once that was done, once I cut out all the windows, I started sanding it with a nail file while wearing a gas mask to make sure I didn't get any foam bits in my face. So I carved each of the windows, each of the sides. That way they also looked a little bit nicer on each of the sides. After I finished sanding everything, I made sure to paint it. I put a base coat of black paint onto it because I thought I would just go with this originally. But then later on, I decided to, for the second coat, I got some baking powder and I mixed it with my chalk black paint so that I could paint each of the sides, and it looks more like it was. It also acted kind of like rather clay and filled in all of the cracks that I was originally worried about, and it made it look really good in texture, and at least I think. It had a really good consistency, and I think the final project looked pretty great with this method. I painted the window seals and the inside to make sure that the foam didn't peek through in the final project. And here's what the final house looked like. I think it looked really good with my table setting that I put out. My two houses look good to center around my skull with the Santa hat. Speaking of Santa hats, I wanted to make a Santa hat for my big skeleton that I got for Halloween this year. So I taped down a piece of paper around a Santa hat that I already owned, the same one in the previous photo, and I drew out a pattern using this Santa hat so that it would fit perfectly for my big skeleton that I have sitting in my dining room. I then cut out the triangle pattern so that I could lay it on a piece of fabric and cut out the fabric to match the shape. In order to honor my mom, I used one of her shirts that I got when she passed away that has a sparkly red fabric. Her favorite holiday was always Christmas, so I thought this would be a nice way to honor her by making a Santa hat out of one of her shirts. I cut out the triangle to make the red part of the hat, and I just cut enough and I left a 1-inch seam around the template to make sure that I was able to either sew or hot glue the sides together. For this I just hot glued it, but for most projects I like to hand sew. I cut out 4 pieces of fabric and then lined them up on each side so that I could glue down each of the sides on the right and left side. Here you see me gluing down 2 of the sides of the bottom sides to make sure that I had a nice hem going at the bottom. After finishing the bottom seam, I took each of the sides and I glued them together And then I glued each of the triangles together on one side and then on the other, and then I turned it inside out for each side like this, and I ended up gluing them together, doing the same thing and then gluing each of the ones together. I measured the bottom half of it and then cut this white fabric to size so it would surround the entire part of it. I put down, I hemmed each side of it with glue and then glued it directly onto the hat so that it would look like a fuzzy bottom of the hat. And after that, I had some extra fabric, so I used the extra fabric to make the little ball at the end of the hat, and I glued it to the top of the hat and finished the hat there. And this is the final hat. It looks really great on my skeleton I named Scully, and he looks great for the holidays. This is a great way to turn your Halloween decor into holiday decor. Just put a little Santa hat on it and it's ready for the holidays. Next, I am making black ornaments by taking my old blue ornaments and many others, and first starting off with a base coat of black before I proceed to put on glitter onto each one of the ornaments. I started off by removing the silver connector pieces that hang to the ornament, and then I took the ornaments and covered them in either liquid latex or Mod Podge so that I could cover them in glitter and sprinkle it over top. Once that was dry, I sealed it with Mod Podge after. Here you can see me putting the silver pieces back on to the ornament. Here's what the final ornaments looked like once I put everything together. I hope you enjoyed watching this crafting video for the holidays, and I hope you have a happy holiday yourself. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me in my holiday celebration, and here's the final look at the projects.